Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the 1ND podcast. I'm your host, Vikash. I'm joined by my co-host, Sagar. And today, we're just going to be talking about us.
Yeah, this will be more of a free-form podcast, just some general topics, we'll discuss some of the things we've been up to, in this quarantine lifestyle because of COVID, and whatever we find interesting. Hopefully you guys enjoy.
And obviously, we've taken a brief hiatus. I think it's been a little over a month since we last posted, but that's for good reason. And today, I don't know how you want to start it. Do you know that meme of the little blonde kid? He just goes up to the camera and he says, "Wait a minute, who are you?"
Oh, I don't know that one. I know
You
the
don't?
one.
Okay, that'll be the thumbnail of the video.
Oh, is it the Kazoo Kid?
Yes, it is the
The
Kazoo
Kazoo
Kid.
Kid, yes.
Exactly, dude.
Golden meme.
That's going to be the thumbnail.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, you want to explain why we've been missing for a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, we've both been keeping busy for sure. For me, especially. I'm a master's candidate, so this was my last semester, and basically, instead of doing like a thesis or like a paper, we have to pass a board exam where we.
And what do you major in?
Oh yeah, so that's a good question to ask for sure. I'll definitely do great on my interviews. Let's go. So I'm getting my master's in economics. So I've done a lot of like quantitative analysis coursework, your basic micro, macro, and then a lot of math. So studying for this board exam, which is basically grilling you on everything you learned in your 2 years getting the degree. It was a pretty rough experience, and like you're sitting in front of three professors who you've taken classes with, and they're gonna ask you on everything under the sun, and you have to be ready to answer. And if you slip up, it's kind of it's kind of hard to get your train of thought back, just because your mind is like at a speed like it's not normally at, because you're trying to like anticipate what they want you to know, and you're just trying to blurt out everything like you'd normally do on a test, or like if you're cramming for a test and like the day of the test you're just putting everything that comes in your head onto the paper. It's kind of like that, except with words. Like you're just speaking it out. So pretty nerve-wracking.
Right, and then like if you mess up once, it feels as though your mind is still on that mess up, and you need to fix that before you move on. But your professor's just moving on.
Yeah. So you're
blurting things.
So fun fact: you get 2 attempts. I failed the first attempt, which was pretty like it was a bummer, but it meant I had to I had a second chance, and that's why it took me like a month to pass this thing. But yeah, once you stumble once, your professor's going to grill you on the thing you stumbled on, right? So if you get something wrong, he'll be like, "Wait, so that means you're saying this, right?" And I'm like, "Oh, wait a second." It's like, "Well, this is what you said." And so when they grill you hard and like don't give you a chance to think, it makes it harder. But again, the lesson I learned from that, like the second time, is if like just in general, just speaking with people, giving presentations, if you stumble on something, you don't have to like speak constantly. You can have like moments of silence where you're just gathering your thoughts and you go again. There's nothing wrong with that. So I definitely learned that from the first experience, and so the second time I did stumble quite a few times, but I just like, hey, I'm drawing a little blank, just give me a second, let me think this through. And then it went pretty smoothly and I passed. So this May I'll be graduating. And
Big ballin'.
then it's time for that job search, and who knows how that's going to be with Corona. I'm sure some of the listeners, I mean, there's so many people who are graduating, given that it's graduation season. Like this is when a majority of, college kids do graduate in the spring term. So it's going to be interesting, and definitely a challenge for people to, transition from college to, work or post grad school, depending on what they want to do. So hopefully everything works out.
Dude, honestly, these are unprecedented times, so I couldn't even begin to think about how companies are going to go after the college kids at this point. I don't even know if they're on the forefront of their minds right now, because usually those are the prime candidates, right? You want to find this fresh college kid who's ripe with information and knowledge and wants to learn and expand their job experience. But now it's like, do you focus on that, or do you focus on keeping your company afloat? Because some companies are not doing so hot.
I know for sure. Like just on that thing about fresh talent, like when I interned at Cineverse, they were like emphasizing how much they really want fresh new people into the company. But from what I've heard, this summer's internship group is not. They basically canceled the intern program this summer because of COVID. So I'm sure companies are really focused on just staying alive and staying solvent.
Dude, for sure.
It's a bummer, but business is business, and the good thing is that eventually, since this is not like related to some poor business practice like subprime loans in 2007, hopefully, whenever this COVID thing dies down, there's a vaccine, maybe within a year, things will go back to normal pretty quickly.
Yeah, this does seem like something that is just a dip on the radar. But what you were saying previously about how you were able to say, hey, give me a moment, let me think about this. That's actually really useful in interviews and whatnot because I've been doing a couple. I guess I should give my background. So, Sagar and I are both fairly young. I'm 23. He's 24. We're both balding, so I don't know if that means anything. But uh, I I graduated with my master's in cybersecurity in December, and my bachelor's has nothing to do with cybersecurity. It's business analytics and information systems. Um, and since then, since I graduated from my master's, I was applying at a few places, but I had an internship and I was able to apply with them. And then right when I applied and right when I was about to get my acceptance letter, generally a lot of staffing firms, they don't extend offers within the first quarter because the budget is very tight. And then the latter quarters, they start hiring more internally. And so I was going to get hired within Q2, Q3 full time, but then most likely Q2 because my boss and I were talking about it. And then all this COVID stuff started happening. And literally, I believe I was about to be full time this month. And still, I mean, I work full time hours, but I don't have a salary. So it's kind of annoying. I don't have the healthcare yet or anything like that. But hopefully it's still there whenever COVID slows down. But yeah, right now I'm a security analyst and chugging on. It's very interesting nowadays with cyber in the cybersecurity environment because there's a lot of COVID related attacks and they're very simple.
Yeah, no,
They're
I
not.
was gonna ask you like if like you have one example from work with like a phishing scam, which is like either interesting or like funny, like anything like that you've encountered over like the phishing over the last few weeks.
Dude, one was very funny today. Had nothing to do with fishing. I just thought it was very funny. It said, um, "We found your masturbation video. You may be wondering why you got this email. It's because
Wait. Did they say masturbation?
yes,
Video?
100%
Oh my god.
master." So they said you may be wondering how we contacted you. This is not verbatim, obviously. But I am the owner of a porn website, and I hacked your computer and hacked into your camera and downloaded a video of you masturbating. And it was just so strange. And then like the subject line was the apparently the password that they had to enter, and they were supposed to wire money to someone within some website. But the email was so foobarred that there was no link to a website to go to. So the phishing email was terrible, first off. And I'm pretty sure so the user was terminated anyway, so it's not like it was gonna get to anybody. And the I lost my train of thought.
Hey, remember what we just said? Take a minute to gather yourself, right? So
Heck yeah.
yeah, I mean,
But yeah, the user was
yeah.
terminated. There was no real risk, but I just thought it was funny that they were like, "Go to this link now, and then we'll disappear forever." And it was so cryptic, such a cryptic message, and just terribly made. But in regards to COVID, there have been many phishing emails. So, within emails, within phishing emails, you can spoof the email address. You can spoof the header, and because of that, people can disguise themselves as if they were from the CDC, let's say, and then within the email you can have a link that looks like a legitimate email, but the link can redirect to almost not to almost to literally anything, and so it gives off this false sense of security that, oh, this is an email from the CDC, oh, this is pertinent information that I need to know, let's click it real quick. And that's what they thrive off of. That's what a lot of phishing emails thrive off of, is getting that person to click as quick as possible, and so that they don't even think, oh, is this a malicious email? And luckily only a couple people have clicked, but I'm not gonna go into too many details. I don't know how much detail I can go into, but yeah, be careful out there. Phishing emails are running rampant.
Yeah, no, I'm sure about that. And like, just this like virus and everything is, it's crazy how many people it's impacted in different ways. Like the reach of its like effects is everywhere. Like, first of all, you're not getting your full time position yet, because of how financially companies are, under burden and under stress. But on top of that, like your work is being tailored to COVID as well, in a sense. Like I can say the same about my work, right? So right now I'm basically an independent contractor for a private reinsurance company. And one of the main projects that I had to do this week was crunching a bunch of numbers of the entire payroll like database so that we can submit this application for the payroll protection program in the United States, where the government is setting up a fund to give away loans to businesses to cover payroll, and those loans would be forgiven. So just like on the finance end too, there's going to be like a lot of companies out there trying to not, I wouldn't even say it's not like money grabbing, but they're trying to attain resources from wherever they can, which is the obvious thing to do in these situations. And um so yeah, like that whole process was really, well, not stressful for me, but I'm sure for the higher ups it was stressful because there's such a demand for that money. And the first 300 or 250 billion dollars was gone within weeks, and experts are predicting that the next wave of the money will be gone in like a few days. So like the demand, well, not the, well, everyone wants money, but the need for the money right now is insane, and like it's definitely affecting everyone's work. So
So is this about the small business loans?
yeah, these are like the SBA, the small business loans.
I've been seeing a lot of articles everywhere about how these larger corporations are, applying for these small business loans, and technically they do, you know, they suffice the requirements to apply for them, and they are getting the loans. But there are so many actual small businesses that need them, and uh, who would use it just for that payroll that they need, which is really the reason why it's used, so that you can pay these people while everyone's at home. And there are some companies that I've seen um, that are splitting their businesses within two. So like they have subsidiaries, and they are applying for separately the small business loans and getting 10 million, which is the maximum for each subsidiary. And so it's just taking a lot of money away from the actual small businesses that the bill was intended for.
Oh no, for sure. Like you're saying, like there's some companies that are getting 20, 30 million dollars based on the number of subsidiaries they have, but their market caps are like in the hundreds of millions of dollars. So they're not really the ones who need it, but because of the established connections they have with banks, it's easier for them to submit paperwork. So that's another like whole discussion about the infrastructure between like your finance between a local business and a big business, where a big business has these relations with banks, like these larger like national banks, and it's easier for them to get these loans than like a small business, like say your mom and pop like barbershop, right? What kind of relation does he have with a bank other than that one loan he has, right? So there's not that constant communication between him, the client, and the bank in terms of just regular relations, right? Because the volume of his transaction with the bank is really just that one loan. Whereas these larger companies establish these connections because they're constantly borrowing and spending and borrowing and spending money because they have all these different revenue generating projects they can do because they're so big. So that again is like magnifying the problem even more, where this money was intended for these small businesses, but it's the least accessible to those small businesses because of how much longer and how more complicated it would be for them to get these loans. And the other thing is that, so I basically have firsthand experience now of reading through the legal papers and like documenting payroll and the information we need for applying for those loans. And some of the language is it's like very, very weird and very vague. Like, for example, like there's $100,000 cap where no one who makes over $100,000 is eligible for being compensated on the payroll, right? But what does that mean? You could interpret that in like 3 or 4 different ways. And depending on that, you may have like 2 eligible people. You may have 15 eligible people. You may have no eligible people. So it's very convoluted and confusing, and that again adds to it.
I
Another,
feel like it's also tough to make those documentations, right?
oh
Because
yeah,
you
for
want
sure,
to make it as simple as possible, but when you're making it simple, you open it up for interpretation.
exactly.
And so you're facing this double-edged sword as the people who are writing the documentation, and then obviously there's probably going to be so many people calling into whatever hotline that they have for questions that they're so inundated that people don't get the responses that they need. And so that then goes back to the people who have more resources. Hey, we have resources. We know what to do. Hey, let's apply right now. And then meanwhile, the mom and pops are just like stressing over actually trying to understand and apply for these loans. And it's, you know, system's crazy, man.
Yeah, like so, a larger business will have people specialized for this exact situation, right? Like you said, where they know what to do. Where it's like someone running a barber shop, just for example. I don't know why we keep on saying barber shop, but
You're saying it on me.
I guess it's because I need a haircut,
Yeah,
even though I'm balding. I'm balding and I need a haircut. No, that's irony, but it's
I
like
need a haircut too, and I'm balding.
there's like so many different effects that are just magnifying that discrepancy between small and large businesses and how they're getting these loans. So, while the intentions of the bill were good and it's definitely helping, there needs to be like things in place to make sure this doesn't happen. And again, it's understandable why it did happen, right? You're trying to get this money out as quickly as possible. You don't have time in Congress to like delegate and pass this bill like in a 3 month time frame. You need to do it now. So hopefully with this next wave of money, they like fix some of these problems and it goes to more small businesses.
Yeah, hopefully, man. Let's
Yeah.
not make this too political though, because
Oh yeah, for sure.
it's kind of crazy. We could go in for like multiple hours talking about the politics around this whole situation.
Yeah, for
But man,
sure. Yeah.
so like if you think about it, so your birthday was in February, which is right before all the COVID stuff was happening, right?
Yep.
And then my birthday was in April, which is right in the middle, right? And so, um, how was your birthday knowing? I guess we didn't know how bad it was going to be, but the threat was looming over us, right? Because that's when people started realizing, oh, this could be a problem. That's when, the United States, at least, some people, Bernie Sanders, were talking about the issue. And then, so how was your birthday within COVID, but pre-COVID?
That's a good question. I think I got really lucky, right? So for my birthday, I got to go to like multiple dinners with multiple friends, like dinner with my family, dinner with some of my friends from college, dinner with my, like childhood friends, including you. So for me, I got to celebrate, right? I got to do the things. But for you, you're in the middle of the lockdown quarantine, so you haven't got to like do any of that. So for me, I almost felt like my birthday was normal. Like at the time, the COVID thing was definitely making like headlines, but I think in general, people were not, I wouldn't say taking it seriously, they were underestimating it.
Definitely.
I feel like even at the time, even I thought like, okay, I am wary of these things, but my thinking was okay. Worst case scenario, it'll be a little worse than H1N1. But at the time, very few people knew exactly how easily it was transmitted. The information you were getting out of China was very limited as well. Given their government and their regime, they keep things pretty secretive. I think that's a fair thing to say, for
Oh,
sure.
definitely.
Yeah. So
We all know they're fudging their numbers.
yeah, exactly. So
Dude, you cannot trust China's
no,
numbers.
again, I don't have my source for this right off the top of my head, but I think they said they didn't have that many new deaths, but there was an article saying that they ordered 200,000 body bags from another country, which is kind of contradicting what they were saying about their deaths being like lower now. So
And that's one thing I was wary of earlier too. Like, remember we kept talking about it, and I'm like, all right, everyone's basing their numbers based off of China. And because they had the most prevalent case, right? And that had the most prevalent case. Now it's the United States, right? So if everyone's basing their numbers off of China, you're not getting actual numbers. You're getting fudged up numbers. You're getting these made up numbers to make them look better than they actually are. And It's just unfortunate the way the situation is.
Yeah, no, it
Uh,
definitely sucks. We were talking about the whole quarantine thing. It like again brings this like thing now where we've been in quarantine for a month, and I think me and you both agree that it's in the long-term best interest for the quarantine to stay active longer. I mean, I don't know what the time frame is. No one really has like an exact time frame, right? It would be impossible to say, okay, just stay quarantined for another month, everything will be good. We have no
well,
idea.
Georgia's opening up this week, dude.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to get into. Like there's like states fully opening up, and while we both think that's like not the move,
Extremely premature.
it's extremely premature. But the other thing is that there's going to be like a lot of these businesses that due to lockdown, they need money for rent, they need money for food, and for them, they may be desperate to just get back to work just so that they can, afford to continue living. Right? They don't know how much food they could probably have, and I know that evictions have been like put off for the time being, but all that backup rent is due as soon as this is over. So it would be. I understand where people are coming from. Those people who are desperate to go back to work, because I understand that they need resources, right? And I think that's where the government should take more of a. I mean, again, not to get too political, but I think we may need another round of those stimulus checks.
I mean, it's coming, right? It's in the Congress. They're trying to get something through. We'll see what happens.
Yeah,
But yeah, in Georgia especially, I've seen like some people they want to open up because they want to make money. Some people are cautious to open up, but they will because they need the money. And then some people, even though they need the money, are not going to open up because they know that it's not the right thing to do because businesses have the last say. It's kind of crazy, actually. Not even the mayors of the cities have the right to say any, like the decisions. It's the governor who's opening everything up. And
yeah. It's because the governor basically issued like a statewide order, so that basically
right.
takes the power out of like mayor's hands.
And it's also great, like the handling of this coronavirus, the fact that, everyone has a different opinion on it. All of this is going to go in the history books, and we'll see how everything goes. Luckily, like, yes, the coronavirus is a very scary thing and something that we should be wary of. But luckily, the percentage of deaths is not as bad as it could be, right? Like, it's not something that's 30-40%, because then we'd be seeing we'd be seeing a more logical path to taking care of it. But since it's so, I don't want to say so low, that's diminishing the value. I mean, the impact that it's having on the community, on the entire world. But at the same time, it's not something that's 10%, 20%. It's not something that's forcing everyone to think logically.
And the thing about that is that the mortality rate may be low now, but if we prematurely open everything up again, it may get worse depending on how many more people get infected. Because what we saw was the curve was like, flattening. And in the places that started like undoing restrictions, those numbers pick right back up. So it was working. It's clearly working to stay quarantined and not go
Actually,
out.
really quick, let me go back to my birthday and then we can go to COVID stuff because I found some interesting stuff about the statistics. But yeah, my birthday, literally, I had work. It was a Monday. Mondays. And then, was it a Monday?
Fun fact, since I was just cramming for the last month, I lost all sense of time, and what day it was did not matter to me. So I have no idea. I think your birthday was on a Monday.
It was a Monday
Because
I remember
I
working.
remember wishing you at midnight on Sunday.
Right, we were playing Smash.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, so my birthday was on a Monday. Had work, and then after work, my sister, she's very caring. She's very nice. I annoy her way too much, but it is fun for me. I am an annoying person, and I get great joy from it. But she planned this WhatsApp group chat video call during the time where we cut the cake. We got a cake. We got, I think, Taco Bell. Was it Taco Bell? I think it was Popeyes or Taco Bell.
I think you said
stuff that we can
Popeyes.
get delivered. I think it was Popeyes because then I had Taco Bell the weekend. I love Taco Bell, but yeah, it was. I mean, it's as good as a quarantine birthday can get, really. I didn't
Yeah,
want
I
to take
mean,
pictures though, and Indian parents always want to take pictures.
yeah, they do want to be doing that. But I mean, like, you made most of your situation.
Right. But I mean, I haven't shaved since this thing started, and I don't grow hair on my cheeks. I'm the worst. I have the worst genetics for facial hair growth. Well, maybe not the worst. We got buddies who, unfortunately cannot. But like, it's such a tease. I can grow it everywhere but my cheeks.
At least it's not as bad as KSI's beard. If you've seen that beard, oh my goodness.
That ish is patchy.
Yeah.
But yeah, about the corona cases and how even a single day without social distancing, I've seen like graphs and articles about how it would exponentially increase the curve. And I think I sent you something on Twitter about, I don't know if you were able to see it, but someone, and I don't know if it's true or not, so I'm just going to go look at it. It said, I found a severe error in the formulation of the IMHE COVID-19 curve fit program. So apparently it oversimplifies it and forces it into a specific model, so a specific shape. So it couldn't, there's so much degree of error that could be within the shape that it is currently that we probably don't know the actual shape of the real curve.
That's actually really interesting because, given my like master's degree, it's in modeling and like understanding
Exactly. That's
time
why I
series
thought
data.
you would be interested in that.
Yeah, I would definitely be. I'll have to take a look at that because like there's so many variables that go into the spread of a disease like this that making a model that could even have somewhat of an understanding of the numbers is pretty impressive. So it makes sense that they were trying to pigeonhole like this model and like make it fit because that's what, fun fact, a lot of people like to do. Like they just like taking their numbers, throwing whatever sticks, and then saying, hey, look, here's my R squared, which basically says, this is how much of the variation that my model measures in like the data. And then like, okay, this is high enough. We're good. End of story. So it's crazy that the dude found that there was a limitation to that. And I wonder what formulas he was using, but yeah, it's crazy how fast this thing can like infect people. I mean, using like simple, like even the simple mathematics of like exponents, right? Like squaring something, then squaring that square, and then squaring the square of that. Like your number gets very large very quickly. So it's scary stuff for sure.
Definitely, dude. I don't know if if there is an issue in the model and everyone is basing their all the Republicans are saying, hey, let's open our state because the curve is flattening, which logically just doesn't make sense, right? Like,
No, and the other thing is the limited amount of tests we have. No one really knows how many people have corona, right?
and I know the governors are stuck between a rock and a hard place in that they have to they're thinking of the economy first before, the deaths of everyone else that's going to die from corona and the spread of it. But this just isn't something to take lightly, it seems,
Yeah, no, not at all. It's again, I wonder how we'll be talking about this like 1 month from now, 2 months from now, because depending on how people act, the results are going to be very, very different.
Right.
And yeah, so hopefully, most people have, enough resources and things to like stay home and, haul it out over the next month or two or however long it takes. And we end up on the other side, looking at this and like learning and, getting things ready for the next time this happens. Because this is definitely not the last time something like this is going to happen. I think this is a big wake up call for like our medical infrastructure, the infrastructure like we're talking about between like businesses and banks.
And it'll tell the future presidents to not fire pandemic teams.
Yes, that's also true. And I guess tailing off of COVID, we can talk about like the impacts this has had on the market. I know you've been doing a lot of research into like oil and other things that have been impacted by it. So I think that'd be a cool thing to talk about. I know like history was made 2 days ago when oil went negative. And the funniest thing about this is that in econ, right? we learn everything under the sun, but one of the things that we asked our professor once was, hey, why don't we learn about negative prices? And he's like, they're not realistic. You don't have to worry about that. And literally, and literally the biggest, most like the largest consumed commodity on earth, oil, went negative for the first time in history. Now that is like you said, unprecedented. And I know you've been trading, some stocks with it. So I think that would be a cool thing to talk about.
It would. And you know what? We're going to talk about that on the next podcast
It's
because
a little teaser,
it's going
huh?
to take way too long.
Yeah,
I'm telling you right now, I can go over the whole history. Well, not the whole history, but like what's happened and what's led to this point because everyone's seen, oh, oil was negative. I can tell you like, hey, yeah, it went negative. This is the result of that negative price, da 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 da. And it'll be like this quick TLDR, but you're not going to gain anything from it. You're just going to like get this thing that you've already read in headlines. And so we'll save that for that next podcast. We'll go over stocks more in depth. And yeah, that's a little teaser for the next one.
I will say though,
to learn about a little of that black money. Oh wait, that sounds kind of racist.
Okay, well,
I didn't mean it though.
I will say this. You predicted the negative oil price at least 3 weeks before it happened. So you've been like on top of this thing. So yeah, definitely next podcast you will take center stage and we'll dive deep. I may put on my tinfoil hat because I don't understand as much as you on this. So
and that's why we'll have the podcast. We can have so many people learn about why oil got to the place where it is currently.
Yeah, exactly. So that should be a fun one, and expect that, within maybe the next week, we'll be, doing more podcasts on a more consistent schedule now.
I like how you said COD because we've been playing a lot of
We've
COD.
been playing a lot of COD. It's Freudian slip. So the podcast will be more frequent now that, I'm done with my master's and Vikas is, basically in his job and he's got a good schedule at working from hometown. So the podcast should be coming out more frequently for sure.
So how about we talk about what we've been doing within quarantine? How have our lives been how has this changed our lives? How has it changed our routines really?
Okay, so I'll go first because I really haven't changed much at all, except for one aspect, which is the gym, which is I used to go every day, and now I haven't gone in like a month, which is slowly rotting away my brain. But other than that, so this semester, I only had to take one class, which was once a week on campus, and I commute. So once a week, I used to just leave, go for a couple hours and come back. So nothing too terrible. So since all colleges have shifted to online, except Liberty University, yeah, it's been pretty okay. The class I'm taking is not very technically intense. It's more just grasping like theories behind financial markets. So a lot more reading and understanding that way. So in terms of like learning it, not that bad. But I will say that I learn way better in person than online. Like the amount of information I can retain when someone speaks it to me, like physically, person to person, I'll absorb most of it. But if I'm online and I'm looking at a screen or listening to them, my mind is somewhere else. It's going through one ear and out the other. I cannot learn that way. I don't know what it is, but it just how I function. I don't know, people are different, right? Like you, for example, did your entire master's online, and that works for you. But for me, I would not be able to do that. Like, I wouldn't be able to retain anything. So
yeah. So for me, yeah, online classes are just so convenient. Just because I don't have to drive to school, I don't have to, sit in class and learn. I can learn whenever I want. And that's the beauty of it to me. And yeah, everyone learns differently. That's why some people need that physical class to go into, to sit down, take notes, listen to the professor, ask questions, everything of the sort. Because definitely one of the cons of online classes, which I'm sure everyone is feeling now, is that professors do not respond in a timely fashion. And so if you have a question, you can't really just like, hey, what's up, prof? Let me just ask you this. No, you can't call them up and say anything like that. You got to email them or set up a time in their quote-unquote office hours, which are virtual office hours, are never actually, some professors abide by them, but they just have them as a formality. And so I will say more professors right now are being more, lenient with everything and understanding and having those actual office hours because they do want their students to succeed. And these are unprecedented times. But yeah, back a year ago when everything was online for me, it was just, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? But I enjoyed it. I was able to finish in a year, my entire master's, and it wasn't it wasn't bad. I mean, it was pretty convenient in that I could go to work and then come home and work on my master's whenever I wanted to. I can do my assignments whenever I wanted to and submit them. And another annoying part was working in groups. There were a lot of group projects, and some people did not respond. If you think it's tough to get people to work with you in person, I know group projects in person are terrible, but group projects that are not in person are the worst. If they don't, they can pretend that, oh, I didn't see your email. Oh, I didn't see your message. Oh, I didn't see your group me. Oh, we have this due at 12. What do I do? What do I have to do? And it's like, well, we already finished. Thanks, Sydney.
Okay, well, there's some shots thrown.
There's no one named Sydney. I just named
Oh,
a random
I thought there was
person.
actually someone named Sydney. Oh man.
I don't know why that's the first word that came to mind. Name that came to mind. But yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, like for me, it was a nightmare too, because like for your board exam, like my master's oral, you as a student are responsible for organizing all your professors to meet at a certain date at a certain time to be on the board. And one of the professors would not respond to my emails. I emailed him 6 times in 2 weeks, and he did not at once give me a response. So I
And then how
literally,
did you get in contact?
I literally had to contact someone who knew someone who was taking his class this semester, and because everything moved online, he gave out his number. So through them, I got his personal cell phone number, and then I texted him on his personal cell phone number that, hey, I need you here for my exam. He's like, oh, okay. So like I had to go through so many like obstacles and hurdles just to get a confirmation from one professor to show up for the exam. So it's a nightmare, and I'm sure everyone out there is dealing with the same problem right now. And
right. It's just that the infrastructure is not set up for online classes for literally everyone.
Not at all.
Right. It's so much easier that when you have, time to prepare the semester before, or you've done online classes before, hey, I got to set up all these lectures. I got to record them, get this lesson plan out, tailor that lesson plan to online learning, versus right now where everyone is just, hey, I'm an in-person professor, never touched the online stuff, and now they have to move everything online. I could totally understand how it's such an issue.
And I feel bad. I mean, I don't know about other majors and stuff, but for like the math and econ majors out there, I feel really bad for those kids because some of the courses I took involved like calculus 3 and 4, where one problem could stretch like 2.5 pages, and you're not going to be able to ask a professor about the nuances like in like line 16 of question 4 and like why you did this step to simplify this for like these numbers that way, right? So you're not going to be able to communicate with your professors on that level of detail now. And so that's
Oh, right. I didn't even consider that, because when you're in class and they're working through their math, you can see each step. And then when you get to a step that you don't understand, you can immediately ask that professor, hey, how
Exactly.
did you get that? Versus having to go through everything and then contacting your professor, and then you probably have to go through it again because now you understand that portion. Then you go through, maybe there's another spot that you don't understand. That makes sense. I guess cybersecurity, I didn't run into any of those types of issues. But I could definitely see how that would be troublesome in the learning process.
yeah, it's definitely rough, and prayers up for all those math people. It's gonna be tough, but hey, there's always resources online, and honestly, like even on the master's level, like YouTube helped me. Like you'll find like graduate level stuff on YouTube that will get you through master's courses. Like you'll find a ton of resources on that kind of stuff. So
Dude, one of my
you gotta be
professors
resourceful.
uploaded all his videos on YouTube.
That's crazy.
There's legitimately a whole master's coursework on YouTube.
Yeah.
And he only had like a couple hundred views each, but like he's going through all this material, and I'm like, this is free. They're not privated videos. Like anybody can look this up. I forget the class, but I do remember that fact of the class. But yeah, for me, quarantine has been interesting, right? So like, I am not a morning person. I don't drink coffee. I don't really do caffeine caffeine at all. And so I dreaded mornings. I had to wake up, get ready, go to work. I hate driving. We live in St. Pete, and I have to drive to Tampa to go to work. The Howard Franklin Bridge is terrible in the morning because nobody knows how to drive in Florida, and especially in the morning when everyone's just angry. But I didn't have any issues driving to work. It's just Florida's annoying at times. But driving to work, driving back, that's all time within your day. And then in general, going to work and then coming back, I just feel more tired. And I love to be productive, and I feel like that's why my hair's falling out, because I focus too much on being productive. And obviously, not to say I'm mightier than thou or anything like that. It's just that I feel bad about myself when I'm not productive. And there's so many things that I want to do and I want to take advantage of during this quarantine that, right after work, I can hop off work, my work computer, go to my actual computer and do whatever it is I need to do. Recently, for example, I've been learning how to trade options, and, it's been interesting. Obviously, options are a little complicated because there's more things involved than trading stocks, but in general, it's the same thinking. You're just thinking more long term a little bit. But I can also see how people lose a lot of money, which is why I'm trying to learn before I jump headfirst into it. But that's one thing that I've been working on. And then there's a bunch of other things, like there are small businesses that I want to start, ideas that I have. I've built a long-term stock dividend portfolio, and built it out more, actually. And so all these things, I've been able to take advantage of the time that we've had staying at home, because I do get to wake up a little bit later to go to work. I mean, theoretically, I still wake up around the same time. Before I woke up at 7:30, now I wake up around like 8:30, and I start work immediately so that I can end work, because I'm hourly still, so I'm going to take advantage of that. And then after work, I'm not as drained because I'm not driving. I'm not, sitting at work listening to Joe Rogan or Neil deGrasse Tyson, which I do enjoy, but at the same time, you're physically there and physically having to do all this stuff. Here I can just, like, if I need to take a break, I can move over to the outside and sit there and work for a little bit, or move somewhere else, or talk to my mom or talk to my sister and see how they're doing. If they need help, I can help them. And so it is pretty convenient working from home. And it's honestly, I remember talking to you about it before, it's my goal to work at home, because then the ideal is to trade while I'm working, because I do get to do that now. I love trading while I work, and I did get to do it a little bit at my workplace, but at that time I wasn't actually focused on stock trading. I was focused more on this automated stock trading bot that I'm working on, which has been put on the wayside. I have not touched it since COVID started, because there's so much opportunity in the stock market right now.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And my experience, like, working from home and then doing my own side projects and things is different from you. We've talked about this before, but so this is one of the things. I don't know how many people out there are like me, where it's really hard for me to, like, decompartmentalize things, like separate work from, my stock trading from this. So my mind is always, like, churning at like 100 miles an hour, where all these things are going through my head, like, okay, I have to do this, I have to do that. And it's hard for me to, like, separate them and, think about only one thing at once. Everything in my mind is going at the same time. So it's something I've really worked on. And I think that's one of the harder things about the whole being at home thing, where you have school, at least for, like, personally for me, school, work, side projects, job applications, like all these things I'm doing from the same desk, and it's hard for me to separate them and, like, focus on one at a time. And I don't know how many other people might have this problem, but it's, like, a big one for me. So I have to, like, make it a point that I make time for certain things, and that I only think about that certain thing. Because, like, even if I make a schedule for it, the way my mind works, I'm thinking of everything at once, and it's very, very annoying. And it, like, burns me out sometimes, but I've gotten better over the last year at doing those kind of things. And it's definitely one of the, I wouldn't say drawbacks, but it's one of the things that could happen if you're at home and, like, you're sitting at the same desk all the time. So I think it is important that sometimes during the day, you go outside and you do things there, or you like take a breather and, focus on something else in a different location. Because if you're doing everything all the time at one location, it gets like things, at least for me, start to like blur together. And then I get kind of flustered about how I'm going to do everything at once. And that's not the approach you should have. You should take your time, split them up, and then tackle each one at a time. It's just something.
Dude, most definitely.
Yeah, it's something that's harder for me to put into practice than just be mindful of. So that's definitely something I've been working on.
Right, and it's like I know a few people. You're definitely not alone in that. You have all your thoughts accelerating in your mind at the same time, and so someone will say, "Oh, just put it on your calendar," but then when you put it on your calendar, that exacerbates the problem, because then you have something on your calendar that you're thinking of that you're like, okay, I'm working on this from 1 to 3, but then I have this to do at 4. Now you're thinking of what you have to do at 4 while you're doing the thing from 1 to 3. And so, yes, that does help in organization, but you're still thinking about whatever else you have to do. And for me personally, I am very introspective. I like to decompartmentalize and like think of different things separately. And when I get focused on something, I'll focus on that, and I can leave that focus for a little bit, but then come back to it whenever I need to, which is why this is ideal for me. But that's not how everybody works. And even though I do all that, I think that's part of the reason my hair's falling out. But right after, like, I'm more of a, work on this, then chill, right? I don't want to, I'll chill in between. Obviously you need mental breaks in between. My brain will get fried if I just were like back to back working on stuff. I like to watch some Cody Ko. I'm rewatching a lot of videos, PewDiePie, KSI will IGWT, stuff like that. I just finished Shokugeki no Soma. I'm going to watch Dr. Stone. You thought I was going to say what's it called? Haikyuu. I was not. You were mistaken. God. I am only going to watch Haikyuu when you watch Assassination Classroom.
What if I told you to watch 2 episodes?
That's not enough.
Yeah. Sure.
Assassination Classroom is only 24 episodes.
No, it's not. It's 50, right?
Oh, yeah. 24 is each season.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's not that bad.
Yeah.
Haikyuu's what, 5 seasons?
I definitely need to watch that.
It's really good.
Kind of off topic a little bit, but we're just talking about things. Tiger King was like so amazing, and it's taken the world by storm.
It came out at the perfect time.
It came out at the perfect time, and I really don't know how Netflix is going to top it, because you haven't watched it, so I won't like get it that much into spoilers, but
I mean, the memes are pretty spoilery already.
The memes are spoilery, but like this is real life that is crazier than a movie you could write, right? And Netflix made a documentary on this. So where would they go from this? This is like so crazy and so wild. I don't know how they can top this documentary. Like, this thing was insane.
I don't know. So you don't really watch Netflix documentaries that often. This is not something you usually do.
No.
Me neither. I don't watch very many documentaries. But there was one time, I was looking through, and there was a documentary called Don't F with Cats. Have you seen that one?
No.
Just as crazy.
Really?
Yes. Oh my goodness. Like, the twists and turns that it goes into. Obviously, I haven't seen Tiger King. I don't know how captivating it is, because I didn't watch all of Don't F with Cats. But yeah, you don't see a lot of it coming, and it's very strange. I'm not necessarily recommending it because I haven't seen the whole thing. But I think Netflix has that, crazy factor within their documentaries down.
Yeah.
Just based off of those 2 documentaries alone.
And like, what was the other one? To Catch a Murderer or something like that? Which like really was the topic of conversation for so many people. Focused around that one trial where I didn't watch that one because I don't watch too many, but everywhere I went, people were talking about like To Catch a, I think it was Predator.
To Catch a Predator.
Was it?
I've heard of that. I don't know.
It was I'm confusing shows.
Making a Murderer?
Making a Murderer was the documentary. It was about someone who was charged on shaky like evidence and premises, and it was like everyone was talking about this thing.
Hmm.
and it was a big Netflix documentary, and like people at the time were saying, "Hey, this is like an amazing top class documentary," and then they one upped it with Tiger King, in my opinion. So it's Netflix is on their game. They definitely know what they're doing.
Yep, and that shows in their share price and their earnings.
Yep.
And so, not to go too into stocks, but Netflix is big balling, and I think Netflix and Snapchat and earnings like that, who that just came out, are the reason the market was able to rebound today.
Yeah, definitely.
Today being 4/22/2020. But anyway, back to like quarantine and how people do their scheduling. So I was going into how I'll work, and then after work I give some time to myself, and then I work on my own personal things, and then I have to have that nighttime stuff where we just hang around, play games with the boys, Call of Duty, Scribble, Pokemon Showdown, whatever it is we're playing. I need that time too, because I need to have fun as well within the day.
I mean, yeah, for
Recently,
sure.
actually, I haven't been watching. After I finished Shokugeki no Soma, I haven't been watching very many anime.
I mean, I feel
Uh,
like that's a normal thing where like when you finish a certain series, or wait, did you like is it over Food Wars? Or,
no,
oh, like the new
I
season's
caught
coming out.
up to the new
So like
season.
when you catch up with something, it's kind of like hard to get into something new right off the bat because you're still like fresh off that last thing you were watching or reading.
I think it's
Yeah,
also coupled with what you're interested at the time, because I'm not particularly like I'm more interested in working on my learning how to options trade, or whatever we have in the books for our little company in the future, things of that nature.
yeah,
Uh, and then also, like, let's say I have that free time, I will I would rather, like, I have projects that I want to do in Minecraft, for example, that I want to work on rather than watch an anime. But I think weekends are usually my anime time, or TV show, or YouTube in general. That's when I catch up with almost everything, because I'm just like big chilling on the weekends. And especially now that you're done with your oral and you can relax and we can play video games, we're probably going to be playing a
dude,
lot.
I thought I could relax, but I've been so sleep deprived because right as soon as the oral was done, I'm not complaining. I got like I'm getting work, which I'm lucky to have in this time for sure. So my work is really ramping up at this company that I'm basically a contractor for. And so I've been having to wake up like same time as you to start work at 9, like 8:45, 9ish. And when I was studying for the oral, I literally did not care about time. So if it was like 3:30, 4:30, 5:30 in the morning, it didn't matter. I was just studying, right? I didn't have any time commitment to be anywhere. So that really ruined my time schedule. And so like this week has been like a shock to my system and like getting back on schedule for that.
Right. Your naps have been all over the place
Yeah, they have been.
and destructive to your sleep
Yes,
schedule.
and today I have not napped, so hopefully I will pass out by 11:30.
Nah, that's a good goal, dude. Yeah, I don't know. For me, I don't know. I think we both need different levels of sleep. I think I need 6 to function pretty well. I would prefer 8, but 6 to 8 is my preferred range. And generally, I have a hard time falling asleep. I know melatonin can help, things of that nature, but I just haven't taken any of that stuff. So I ended up staying up late too. So usually it's like, um, yeah, I'll fall asleep around like 2
My
usually.
my sleep curve and the benefit I get from the hours I get is really really weird. So today I had 4 hours of sleep. Absolutely terrible. I feel like crap. If I get 5 to like 5.5, 6, I feel really good. But then when I get like 8.5 to 9, I feel like crap again. So it's like it goes up and down, like the benefit I get from it. So
Interesting.
yeah, 4 sucks. If I get 5, I'm good. I'm like going off the adrenaline. And then when I hit 8.5 to 9, I'm screwed.
That's interesting, because a lot of people, they need 8.5 to 9 hours of sleep to function.
Yeah, you would think, but for me, I mean, it's different for everyone.
Right. But yeah, also, do you think it's like, how much coffee do you take in nowadays? Because I know before, back in the day, we'll have a podcast about this, but Sagar lost how many pounds?
Oh yeah, dude, it's been like 130. We are definitely gonna have a
Jeez.
podcast on that. I will get all my
Definitely.
sources and things ready. There's so much, like, even now I'm learning, and like there's no one true way to lose the weight. But yeah, like we'll talk about this in another podcast for sure. But yeah,
Right. But like
so
in
yeah,
general, so before you were a heavy coffee drinker.
yeah. I still am, but not as much because again, school is dying down. I don't really need it as much because I'm not like staying up and doing crazy hours and getting 3 hours of sleep because I have like projects and like tests and things. So none of that. But I still like today, for example, I had a pretty average 2 cups of coffee. Nothing too
So
crazy.
so for me, I don't understand the coffee stuff, right? I don't understand like when people say that they need a cup of coffee to wake up. What does that mean? Can they actually do they actually necessitate it? Do they need it to start working, or is it something that they're just saying cuz it's funny?
Um, they probably do need it because it is addicting, caffeine. Think of it like sugar, for example. If you don't eat sugar for a week, well, not even a week, for a few days, you'll go through withdrawal symptoms. So you could experience that with coffee where you don't feel good, you feel sick without it. And when you have it, you're getting that rush from the caffeine you had, and then you're back to normal. So it's very much a real thing, I would say.
Hmm. Interesting.
And fortunately for me, I've never been that like I'll drink like 6 cups a day, but I could drink 6 cups a day and then go 3 or 4 days without it. So I never grew that dependent on it, but I would drink it for the purpose of staying awake. It was never drinking it for the purpose of getting the caffeine just to have caffeine. It was like a utility behind why I drank the coffee when I did.
Makes sense.
And like so when I was dieting, coffee is a natural hunger suppressant. So then it wasn't necessarily about the caffeine. It was more that the caffeine is suppressing the hunger that I was having from being on a caloric restriction. So
That makes
there's
sense.
multiple
Yeah.
purposes for it.
So, question for you.
Yeah, go for it.
What are a few things that you've missed the most while being in quarantine?
That's a good question. So
I think we have similar answers.
yeah, so well, I know we have one very similar answer. Number one, we were talking about decompartmentalizing, and one of the greatest tools I used for that was going to the gym where I could just shut my mind off for an hour and just exert myself physically, just put my mind on that one task of lifting weights and doing cardio. So I really, really missed that. It's like I'm missing that like alone time I had to do that kind of thing. I also just miss playing basketball, like especially now when like it's like I'm out of school, you're out of school, you're working, you don't really have tests and things you have to do. We could like really be taking advantage of this time and like getting better, like shooting better.
We're
Maybe
definitely not that good at basketball,
we're not that good,
but
but we could get
be
better.
better, getting
Yeah.
better, dude.
Like hey, like when we played consistently, we did get better, right? Like we shot more consistently.
Objectively.
Objectively, yeah, we shot more consistently. I could dunk the ball. I never actually dunked the ball. That's a lie, but I will one day.
We are both around 5'9" in height,
Yeah, we're both.
and neither of us are very
I'm
close
like
to
what,
dunking
like
a
half
basketball.
an inch taller than you, but that's about it.
Yeah,
So very
I
similar.
think you're like 5'9" and a half. I'm like 5'8" and a half.
Yeah, something like that.
But I'm gonna round up all day, any day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm 5'11".
But yeah, we were not blessed with the greatest genes
No, but yeah.
in
So,
terms of athleticism.
yeah, not at all. Although my dad was pretty athletic, so maybe I have something going
Yeah,
for me.
something went wrong with you.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Hey, we already know it was. I was like 340 pounds. But,
Facts.
But yeah, so missing
That's what
the.
America will do to you.
I'm really missing the physical activity. Another thing I'm really missing is that at least once a week I used to go out and eat, and like nothing crazy, like maybe $15, but like missing out on eating that like food that you now can't really eat. Like say you wanted like Chinese food, just for the sake of staying safe. I'm not getting any takeout, so no pizza, no buffalo wings, no Chinese, no Fresh Kitchen, which was another place I went to a lot. So I miss the takeout. It's not too bad though, because we have like all you could need at home, like garbanzo beans, and it's kind of basic stuff, but it tastes good and It's all good,
And
but
that's all that matters.
I definitely miss out on getting food from outside.
Yeah, I mean, my answers are basically the same. I miss playing basketball with the boys. That's what definitely something we would be doing.
Yeah.
Quite often. One of our friends is definitely missing that more than most.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people taking it worse than others.
Ooh.
You had a technical difficulty?
No, I couldn't hear you for some reason.
Oh, okay, that's fine. I'll figure it out.
We'll push forward.
Yeah, we'll push forward. I'll probably edit that out, whatever.
Yeah.
But yes, oh yeah, no, some people are taking the quarantine worse than others, especially in our friend group. So
Yeah,
that's
and we'll
something to
have
be
him on the
mindful of.
podcast eventually.
Yeah,
because
he's going to be a guest. He can complain
he's very
about
amusing.
his quarantine struggles.
Yeah, but yeah, definitely. I miss the sports. You know, NBA playoffs would be out right now.
You know what? You could be watching a sports anime, but you refuse to.
I mean, how does that compare to LeBron James?
It compares very nicely.
It won't.
Bro, it's taking sport.
It will never.
You're taking a sport, okay? And you're making it an anime. That's a win-win.
But you don't have the pedigree, the legend, the story career that LeBron James has created for himself.
Yeah, but you can get it through an anime main character.
Yeah, over what, 2 days? I'll watch everything and then like I know everything about this kid? Nah, dude. LeBron James, this is a legend of a man that's gonna be written about forever. 50 years. Will anybody care about Haikyuu Boy? Probably. I mean, it's probably a pretty good anime.
It's my number 2 favorite anime. So, well, not number 2.
And if you,
it's in my top 5.
And if you want
forget
to
where it
see our
was.
top 5, you could go to our podcast about our top 5 favorite anime.
I'm not being very consistent. I don't remember where I ranked it. It's been a few months, but
I wouldn't be surprised if you put it at number 1.
No, number 1 is definitely not.
Oh, it's Gintama.
It's Gintama. Number 1 is
I forgot about
always
that. Let's
Gintama.
not give away our lists anymore. But yeah, that's for another.
Go watch the podcast. That's really to find out.
Right.
Go listen to the podcast, or you could watch it now on YouTube. Actually,
Yeah.
we've uploaded them there, so give that a watch if you want to listen to it over there.
YouTube.com/1ND podcast, I believe it is.
And the cool thing about that is, since we're currently, doing a podcast, it's hard for us to get comments on like Spotify and things. So if listeners want to leave comments and, talk about some of their experiences or things they want to hear us, give our opinion on, then on YouTube, you could definitely comment those things and we could take those into account whenever we record.
And like I said previously in this podcast, if you don't know that Kazoo Kid meme, then that'll be the thumbnail of the video, and then you could probably figure out from there where that meme came from.
Yeah.
What else am I missing during this quarantine? I miss hanging out with friends.
Yeah,
in general.
that's the big one.
Yeah, I mean, Discord is very nice in that we can hang out with everybody, but some people don't enjoy, the virtual communication as much as the in-person communication. There's obviously perks to both. What else? I was talking to a girl before this quarantine stuff happened, so that threw everything for a loop with that. Because right now I'm very alone. But, things were looking up, I think.
Oh, man.
What else?
That's depressing.
I mean, I was just being funny.
Yeah,
I'm
I
fine.
I know.
Everything's Gucci up
Yeah.
in here, dude.
Anyway, I think, that pretty much wraps our feelings about this whole quarantine, and who
Yeah, it
knows how long
sucks.
it's going to last, but, we hope everyone stays safe.
And hopefully the government does not make rash and crazy decisions.
Yeah, and I think with that, we will end this episode of the 1ND podcast.
Yes, sir. Let's sign off. And hey, check us out. YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, anywhere you could think. Spotify, Pocket Casts, everywhere. We are there. You can find us anywhere.
Yeah,
Bars.
we're everywhere, except China.
That's definitely, we're home right now. Yeah. But yeah,
All right,
thank you for listening.
Thank you guys for listening. 1ND out.
Peace.